Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to some more Faceit League action here and what will almost certainly be the last game of the year being co-streamed here on the channel. We're as excited as can be for it here today. Dextertron, we're watching Cosmos take on Garfo, two teams that, I have been excited to see throughout the season so far. Both have made really good impressions early on in the season as well. Both looking like very strong contenders, and in a season where you need to be in the top 4 to be able to move on to playoffs, a game like this is extremely important.
Yeah, very much so. Both these teams come in with one loss on the season. Garfo, however, has only played 4 games, so they're sitting at 3-1, while Cosmos, on the other hand, has played 5, so they are 4-1. A victory here tonight really propels either one of these teams here into a spot where you're probably thinking that, depending on how their last couple games go, it puts them in a really good spot to make the playoffs here. But ever since the start of the season, Hunter, we've kind of been waiting for this matchup to happen. Both these two teams have been really good teams in the past. Garfo, ever since we started covering South America, has progressively got better. They made playoffs last season, were really good in CGL, won CGL, and are trying to keep that momentum up. Cosmos, on the other hand, they've been a team that we have seen bounce back and forth. They've been really good at times. They've struggled at times here. Off to a good start to start off this season, and they want to keep that here in their, I believe, final game before the holiday break.
Yeah, 100%. You want to be able to get off to pretty much a good finish to the season. It's going to propel you forward a lot more when it comes to finishing out the season once we come back from break. But this is an important game above all else. When we have to worry about those top 4 conversations, this is a game we're probably going to have to look back on. And the winner of this game is going to have that little bit of an edge. You could say that about some of the other teams that are still hanging around, like Truck Vlog, Faye Overwatch, that are still hanging around that potential top 4 area, where these games where they go up against some of the other best competition, it's going to matter the most. But we'll see what the case is going to be. I've been excited with both of these rosters. We are familiar with so many of these players now. Some of them we were only familiar with a couple from like previous seasons, like Shinigami, but we managed to see someone like the God Hanzo and Gusagobo tank line we saw just a couple days ago was extremely impressive. We managed to see someone like Ligtat, which we have seen so many times in the past, but always remains impressive. But that is not to downplay this Cosmos team. Even though we have seen them less, they have been seriously impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you're starting off the season 4-1. You're trying to finish off, I believe, your final game of the year here, or your final game of the year here with a record of 5-1. That puts you in a really good spot considering there's only 11 teams here, knowing that you would only have 5 more games after. You would feel pretty confident about your chances of making the playoffs here. But I'm just looking at the standings right now, and a victory here for Cosmos tonight, I think, will actually put them into Soul's second place here, at least for the night, as Faye Overwatch has lost twice. So that would probably, at least with a victory here for Cosmos, put them over them and put them in a really good spot. You still have Dilpados there, who is undefeated, and kind of what we expected to see from that squad, a really stacked lineup there for Dilpados. But again, these two teams have a lot to play for in this season here left to go. But this game here tonight, Hunter, like you kind of said, might be one that really you have to look back on come the start of playoffs.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to. So we're ready to get things started away here momentarily, but Garfo themselves, they are in the middle of what we talked about before, which is a long stretch of games. They're currently in game 3 out of 5 being played back to back throughout the entirety of the week, and they're 2 for 2 so far. They have managed to get a couple of really good wins. This is a win they also very much do need. They finish off this week going up against Element Heaven and Faka. So there is a likelihood you could go 5-5 and put yourself in a brilliant position going into that Christmas break. And then from there, it might take a cataclysmic fall to take you out of that position. But hey, we're getting ready to get the game going. I'm not going to lie, Dex, I always get just slightly scared when we see that timer go all the way down to 0 in the Faceit menu. But hey, we get lucky this time.
Yeah, we get very lucky here, but going into our first map of the night, Ilios, we've been seeing this map a lot here in South America. We have our bans as well, and again, these are two bans we see very often here in South America compared to what we see normally in North America. Hazard gonna be the ban coming out from, I believe, Garfo. Cosmos gonna be banning out the Genji, or the other way around. But, I mean, right now, you get rid of the Hazard, it's a very interesting one considering what we know both these teams like to play, especially with seeing Gusugobo come out here for Garfo. How much of a difference maker they were on this Doomfist in their series a little bit earlier this week that we covered. You have to be prepared for that for the other side now if you're Cosmos, but you see Empathy showing us the Zarya. Could work very well, could struggle here a little bit, but Grillo, we saw this a lot yesterday in both our games where Vendetta at points really started to take over the map. They play exactly like Doomfist, so you have to be prepared for that right now if you are Garfo.
Zarya and Vendetta's back out here, which I really love to see, but they don't even get to play the game. Linktat legally find some action earlier on. This number, though, does end up falling. Linktat is literally spiked out like a volleyball, by the way. Almost gets hit with it once again. Good time being point ready to unlock. Decent position right now for Cosmos. Down. It's all of a sudden Gusugobo takes care of business. Might keep them in this.
Might keep him in, and that's a good revenge kill right there. Captain gonna be able to find Shinigami, and right now, if you are Garfo, you should be trying to rotate and drag this fight towards point. Gusugobo trying to get rid of Empathy here, gonna be able to punch the ball, but you're starting to see them rotate towards point.
Yeah, quick take back right there. Excellent once again, picking up right where they left off with that previous win earlier in the week. Did pretty much go almost split half of the win with Monster as well, but we saw the struggle to deal with the Doomfist last week, and we never were able to try to find answers, so this is going to be, I think, the entire squad to be able to find a way to shut down the field.
Yeah, and right now, it might just be to play around Gusugobo, not necessarily focus in on them, but instead say goodbye to Grillo again. It's Gusugobo making the Edge their biggest enemy right now to start off this match.
Yeah, you see a little bit of extra aggression. Trying to find another target. Probably going to have to go away. Get it very low. With that, gets rid of another. He's able to get out, potentially alive as well. Actually does a much better go around from that first map.
No swaps going out here right now from Cosmos, and I really would expect to see Empathy get off to Zarya here. I don't think it's necessarily working for them, and they're slowly building up a grab here right now, which is bad news for Zarya here. However, like I said, if you're Cosmos, you want to be playing around Gusugobo, but you want to make sure you're not going for them, but you're seeing Dystopia and Linktat absolutely start to pick up the pace here. Exactly what we saw them do on Tuesday.
It's been a bit of a struggle for Grillo to build up to play, but still, has hit those goal shots pretty consistently for as long as I've seen them playing the fray. But Empathy is separated from the squad. Nano comes in, and it's just going to stop everything in place. And now, we worry about getting a toucher because this is both of them are running through their leads.
I mean, you might have Ice Volcano here, pop feet coming right out, spawn, just try to get back there with some shields, but who's going to be touched right now for Cosmos? Grillo's there, but they're being pressured up by Linktat. There's the sword throw. They're going to be able barely get a touch there, and somehow Gusugobo stays alive.
Over into Gusugobo. What's that momentarily flower thrown in front of Dystopia? He steps up his ability. Ice Volcano really rough spot. He's going to clip over though for the moment. Dystopia essentially gets moved off, still gets post-round kill on Shinigami with a little help from that Bob, but this should pause the fight at least momentarily.
It's going to pause the fight here for a brief moment. You're going to see Gusugobo come back in very quickly. However, Empathy now has a chance to build up to their grab here, Hunter. If they were not able to get that point cap there, Empathy would have gone this entire round without even building up to one grab. But Gusugobo, again, making the Edge everyone's worst nightmare.
So tough to deal with now. Empathy has a grab. He's just gonna solo grab Gusugobo. He doesn't have anything to work. Does go down, but still it's a rough position because you only have Mene killing right now. As McKenna is rushing back to the back. At least for now, should be able to do so as once again they're gonna be able to reach him.
again, if you're Empathy, you want to try to find a little bit more with that grab, but I think Gusagobo, with how they're playing so far, is perfectly fine to focus solo there. Shinigami, though, this is what you need now from Cosmos. You need your DPS line here to find someone out early on, and Shinigami does just that. Meteor Strike coming out from Gusagobo as they try to keep himself alive.
Yeah, Shinigami has plenty of parallel defense going. He's like reload, and eventually tidal wave investing here from Marcel. Looking at a whole lot. Grillo is trying to take care of business in the backline. Unfortunately, is getting kind of pushed out there, but it's still slowing for time as he's waiting for final fight territory. Marcel does end up going down. Grillo still holding on to the Sundering Blade. It might be super hard, especially with Ligtet having this foundation on the red. Snap potentially gonna come through here.
See them start to rotate towards point. Cappy, though, going to be able to find Empathy as Tsunderuck out there from the other side here for Cosmos.
Yeah, you see Sundering Blade is taking care of something. Over onto Jericho. Ligtet. I don't think the ideal target here. Looks though Grillo gets rid of Lilo, gets rid of a second. Trying to clear this house down with the nano. It looks like it's pretty successful. Empathy pulls back on the dude to maybe get one more touch. That should be the extent of it. Bob there for a little bit of extra footing. Shinigami not even going to bother. 199 to get things started, but Garfo, for the time being, again, just picking up right where they left off in the last one.
Yeah. Absolutely, and this is what they needed here. Like you said, they're in the middle of a gauntlet. This is basically their midpoint. They still have 2 more games after this. They've already played 2 games to start off this week. They want to keep that consistency up, and so far, Hunter, we've talked about it in the past where we've seen teams play these gauntlets where they have multiple games in multiple days in a row. And normally it's around this 3rd game where you start to see teams maybe get a little bit fatigued here. Garfo, they really need that point win right there, or else I felt like you will slowly start to see that fatigue come in. Gusagobo, though, doing everything they want to do and a little bit more on this Doomfist. It really took, Empathy getting up that grab and solo grabbing them there, I think, for Cosmos to get anything going there. You're looking for a little bit more from Grillo and Shinigami, though. If you are Cosmos here, you need your DPS line to be able to slow down Gusagobo, or if not, focus in on someone else.
Yeah, 100%. As I see you fix my microphone, yata. But this fight is ready to get underway. Everybody already extremely low Ligtet over on that Tracer. Honestly, love to see Ligtet over on the Tracer, but apparently Grillo is not a fan of it. Has already taken care of business. This point, getting ready to unlock here. Cosmos gonna be able to get away here with that first cap. You see a little bit more of that aggression from Grillo, but with that sleep right there, death is solidified, as that is gonna cause some trouble.
Like I said, you want your team right now for Cosmos to focus on someone else other than Gusagobo, but at sometimes this is a very hard team to kind of focus in on here, as you just see Garfo come right back in and start to clean up the fight. Dystopia, Gusagobo clean up the final couple right there. They'll get the point flip, but it's very hard to focus in on just one person. Marcel can get out pretty easily. Capium has the sleep. If you can get the sleep out and get a miss there from Capium, it could work, but again, a very, very difficult comp to get anything going with, especially when Dystopia is clicking heads.
Yeah, I haven't said their name a ton so far this first map, but they have been very consistent this entire time. But we'll see if that can keep up. Right now, Grillo is getting effective, but it's being caught out like that. Again, Dystopia able to shut down a fight before it even begins, and now it's a struggle for Cosmos to even really get out of their spawn.
And this is the worst fear for Cosmos. You do not want to allow this DPS line for Garfo to get going here. Yeah, we haven't seen Ligtet pop up a lot, but Gusagobo and Dystopia have been absolute nightmares so far for Cosmos.
Yeah, you see the shutdown right there. Cleanse on Empathy momentarily, but I think it's just going to delay the inevitable. Gusagobo going to go through. Bob throwing in for good measure. That is 2 ultimates used, though, to win this fight, and I get you're feeling the momentum on your side. But at the end of the day, that Bob might be something you want back.
The Bob is definitely something you want back there. I think Gusagobo really ended up using the Meteor Strike there just to kind of keep themselves alive. They found the one pick-off, though, but again, we're going back to the same kind of thing I was talking about last map. Empathy is slowly building up this grab, and Hunter, around now, you would love to have seen one grab come out and basically 60% to another one. Empathy's not even 6% to the first one.
Yeah, not even. Grillo, though, is going to have that Sundering Blade around the corner. It can be a little tough to use in some situations right now. He's looking for a really good target, but, Gusagobo is pretty much just punching away at every single block, and now Tidal Wave activated, trying to find some targets. Ligtet has already gotten rid of 2, though. We might not get a lot from the Sundering Blade, but I think the impact has already been found, and it's just Body trying to throw themselves on, but Dex, this is going to be delaying the inevitable, as the full shutdown will come through. That's going to be 2-0 over here on Ilios as, hey, that is as good a start as any as you can for Garfo, especially they essentially, honestly, dominate the second round.
Yeah, absolutely. Garfo looked like the much better team, and I think their composition really worked a lot better on the second point than what it did on the first point. I think the first point, that Zarya for Cosmos could have really made a difference, but again, we talked about there for just moments where it seemed like the Zarya was slowly building grabs, and the one time they used it, yeah, they found the person they were going for, getting rid of Gusugobo, but at the same time, you want a little bit more from your Zarya. Like I pointed out, they didn't build up to a grab at all that second point. And the pressure coming out there from Garfo was just a little bit too much for Cosmos. When you're allowing Dystopia that time and that space to find those off angles and find headshots, it's gonna be very difficult. And then you're kind of playing right into Ligtat's hands. Yeah, we didn't see Ligtat a lot, but still they end the map with the most elims in that one, and they only died once throughout that entire first map right there. I mean, this was a really good start here for Garfo. Cosmos, they have their opportunities. They're just struggling a little bit. I think the Zarya might not necessarily be the way to go, but with them playing the Vendetta, they might be trying to force it, because like we saw yesterday in NA, that's a very, very scary and deadly combo.
Yeah, and I think yesterday is a really good example of when the Zarya works and when it doesn't. There is a time and a place for a Zarya, and it doesn't work against everything. It definitely has its struggles at times, despite how strong that character is. And we'll see what the situation is going to be, where once again, banning scenario, Wuyong is taken out. I like this. I like that there's not an overreaction to simply get rid of the Doomfist, because we know with this dual tank lineup, if you just get rid of the Doomfist, God Hanzo is simply going to go and take over for a map and go and do their thing. And God Hanzo, they're not out for any particular reason. They are as reliable as Gusugobo. Both of them just happen to have their hero pools, at least for the time being. It's Gusugobo's that's working out big time.
Yeah, and Gusugobo going to be staying in for our second map of the night, which will be Runasapi. Cassidy and Wuyang being banned out here. Wuyang, like you kind of mentioned, coming out from Cosmos as the ban. We saw that from Marcel on that second point. I thought it made a very big difference for them. I think at the first point as well. And again, I feel like Wuyang plays very well into the playstyle that you want to get from a Doomfist. Tidal Blast thrown onto them allows them to still play very aggressive and not necessarily have to use that punch as a get out of jail card. They are able to stay there, be a little bit more in your face and waiting for the blast to go off here. Other side though, you're gonna see Cassidy banned out by Garfo. I like this ban here. Shinigami was one that brought out the Cassidy there on that second point, found the first pick there, and I like getting rid of it here. Yeah, you still leave a lot of other hit scans available, but this is one of those maps where it's a lot more close quarters at times. Cassidy does find a little bit more value here, but still, you leave Soj, you leave Ashe, you leave Freya, you leave Hanzo, because Hunter, me and you saw Hanzo yesterday that really, really impressed us.
It was extremely impressive to see them throughout the day, and I'm excited to see that team, and specifically them again here later on in the season. But at least where we're standing at for now is these DPS that need to keep having these powerful opponents, because it really has been, in a lot of ways, the battle of the tanks. We've definitely seen a lot from someone like Relo, like Ligtat early on, but Dystopia has kind of been the standout, at least through that first map, and now with that Sojourn potentially going to be on display, we'll see if the consistency keeps up. But speaking of consistency, Dex, for the time being, Empathy is still in on that Zarya.
Yeah, and right now, I think you have maybe the first 2-3 minutes of this map, I think, to get the Zarya going here. If it doesn't work here and they stick with it, you really have to start questioning right now for Cosmos. Do they believe they have a deeper tank pool? Is this the only tank that Empathy's comfortable playing? Again, you might be trying just to play it with this Vendetta, but you might have to go other places already. I see Gusugobo picking up right where they left off, finding Mene.
Yeah, man. Gusugobo picking up right where they have left off here, and Ligtat's going to help with a little bit of cleanup. Relo does get rid of Marcel to get things going, but Dystopia gets the Mega Health Pack, is going to be able to sustain. So unfortunately, this is going to be the cleanup coming through right here. Cart going to move forward for Garfo once again.
And I'm looking right now at Cosmos to see, do we see any swaps coming out for them? No, they're going to be sticking with it here. Again, you need to have an advantage, I think, with this composition right now for Cosmos. Gusugo is playing however they want. You need to try to focus in on someone else, that backline. If hell, you get rid of Dystopia, you open up a lot there, because Ligtat is the only other person there who really is going to be focusing a lot of damage. And I like this here. You see Cosmos just go straight for the backline instead.
Yeah, Shinigami is impressive. Unfortunately, walks directly into the deflect. Doesn't have a whole lot of character to work with. Grillo is just trying to avoid that punch every single time. It's going to be so difficult to get with the Dystopia. Gonna get slashed down, though. Grillo could have the opening ready to turn this one around, but Grillo needs care right here, right now. Eventually, will get it in time, and Marcel potentially going to be assassinated, but Gusagobo, again, is doing so many amazing for the squad, but it's going to go down for the first time in what feels like a long time. In fact, I don't want to say the first time they've gone down in the series, but I'd believe it.
No, they died a couple times last time. But, I mean, that's exactly what you need there if you're Cosmos. You need a good fight to go your way. You got everything going. Grillo, I think, is a big linchpin of this entire thing. Yeah, I've been maybe putting a little bit too much focus on empathy, but Grillo, being able to play very aggressively with this Vendetta is something you need to do here, as Gusagobo has to use the meteor strike just to get them out of dodge and keep themselves alive. Yeah,
for the time being, though, Cosmos has taken over the lead, but this as far as they're going to get with that 4-meter lead, as Capium and Licktat both doing the jobs excellently with everything on that bot. Is going to start moving forward, and you'll have a Rigger come through, and while this lead might go back and forth, it really is going to be about getting that forward spawn first.
Yeah, absolutely here. But Grillo, I think, showed us an example there of how to play Vendetta, both in a good and bad way in those last two fights. They found value early on, able to build up their passive ability right there, where they're able to swing a little bit faster. But then that last fight, the one where they died, I believe, first, they went too far forward on their own. Like I said, Hunter, you want to play Vendetta much like you play a Doomfist. You get in, you do a little bit of damage, get out, leave it there for the rest of your team to clean up. And Grillo overextend themselves right there, as you already see here. Just Garfo winning this fight out.
Yeah, and this pretty much all but solidifies this forward spawns. Grillo last taken out. Gusagobo has been so impressive over on the Doomfist, and Empathy is still looking to stick over on the Zarya. I don't know how long this ends up staying any longer, because Empathy's not doing bad. It's just not working into Gusagobo.
He's not doing bad exactly, but still, look, there's not even 70% to their first ultimate. You're seeing Grillo use their ultimate here, gonna be able to find Licktat, but Gusagobo has almost lapped them in ultimate.
Yeah, that punch barely missing out of Grillo. Pretty much gonna help this side that fight right there, but you're right. It has nearly at this point, but either way, they take away a fight win right here. Forward spawns are still activated though, so the Sophia Capium should be able to get forward spawns here, so an aggressive fight could be in the cards. Oh, they won't?
No, they're not. Just barely. Actually, this is going to really slow down what I think Garfo wanted to do here. I imagine they want to try to come back in very quickly, especially with all the ultimates they have. But now they're going to have to play slowly. They're not going to give up forward spawns just yet, but it's going to be who throws out the first punch. Kitsune Rushes, you would always assume being the first ultimate out here, but Marcel might need to use speed just to keep himself alive. Licktat, though, shuts down Shinigami.
Yeah, Grillo could not be in a worse position, though, so not going to get there all the way, but again, you get a little bit more space. You don't really invest anything either, but now you're going to go into a situation where Empathy loses all their charge. There's 9 ultimates on the table now. In this fight, anything can genuinely happen.
That was the worst case scenario right there for Cosmos. You want to get ultimates out from the other side, but the fact you lost Shinigami there very early on, you already started to see the majority of Cosmos back out. Empathy stayed in. They actually had a good opportunity for a grab, but the rest of their team just disengaged from that fight, and now you're going into another fight here with everyone essentially having their ultimates ready to go.
Yeah, the grab goes out and doesn't get anything, but Shinigami is getting plenty of action right here. That's 2 down for them. Dystopia the only one to invest, though, so it's a 2-for-1 trade. You love that at the end of the day. You lose this fight, but you are sitting in great standing if you're Garfo.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a lot right here if you're Garfo. You can play fast. The grab, not necessarily finding, but again, you need your DPS line tier to step up for both these sides, and Cosmos have got that there from Shinigami. We know how well this player is. They just need to get going here. Kitsune Rush out, though, from both sides.
Yeah, the trade-off comes through, but things looking bad already. Mene is down. Grillo has been gone, and now Empathy just has to struggle in there. Eventually going to get taken down. Everyone cleared out. Gusagobo able to take care of plenty of action, but you still have plenty of time on the clock here. You get out 2 more ultimates. Cosmos is slowly chipping away at this.
They're slowly chipping away, but the problem is it's slowly. You want to pick it up a little bit here, and you need to really win a fight here without investing the beat, because you know that if Ice Volcano uses the beat, Marcel's going to use their own beat, and then Licktat's going to have the blade essentially for free here. Dystopian, though, needs to get out, but Grillo's going to make sure that's not the case.
Ooh, yeah, Ice Volcano closed there for a moment, beats going to be activated, though, and that means all ultimates have been put onto the table. Closest one, anywhere close right now, is Grillo. Grillo has been in a tough position all game, has been taking care of Shinigami, trying to struggle in there, stay alive. Empathy able to help out a little bit with plenty of those bubbles. Is Faceit once again going to Cosmos, and we have 50-50 Overwatch happening before our eyes. And while normally that's comfortable for the play of the team in the lead is not big whatsoever.
At least not big. However, you do have the stall right here when Cosmos, if they get these forward spawns, and you have a little bit of time right there. But you're just seeing Garfo here try to play it a little bit slow. They might give up the forward spawns here for free, but you immediately see Gustagobo, Ligtat, and Marcel already up there. Dystopia though getting started. And, oh.
Yeah, Grillo's going to get rid of one. Unfortunately, that is the far extent of it. And we're back to the competition with 50-50 Overwatch. Cosmos more than happy to keep going back and forth like this, but eventually, Dex, it's not going to stay like this. Eventually, one of these teams is going to break and lose back-to-back fights.
Eventually, yeah, it's going to really come down to ultimates right now. And I mean, you look at it here for Cosmos, they're in a little bit of a better spot ultimate-wise. Dystopia will have their overclock potentially at some point in this fight, but do they use it or do they wait for Shinigami to also use theirs? We've seen that in the past, but Grillo going to be the first one to throw something out here, but I think that's denied by the sign they were in front of.
Yeah, but still, Ligtat's in a rough situation. Does get a nice little book there from Marcel. Essentially keeps Ligtat going. Nice little bounce. Grillo bounces like twice in the air. Is able to get a really good slash onto Gustagobo, who just takes care of business, by the way. We are familiar with your game quite well, sir, as Ligtat able to help finish things off. Ligtat gets rid of 3 to finish out the fight, and now back-to-back fight wins. Forward spawns back, and the lead will extend.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing right there for Garfo. You just need to win that fight. Like you said, back-to-back fight wins. That's what one of these teams need to do, and that would have been the difference maker here. And because it's Garfo, they're now adding on to their lead. Already back over 20 meters here. Shinigami, though, trying to make sure it's a short lead that they're building upon.
Yeah, it's such a rough situation to be in, but gets rid of Ligtat, so opens up the door potentially. Marcel able to get out alive momentarily. Needs to try to get out with the rest of the squad, but Ligtat's going to get forward spawns. They're going to have all 5 back so quickly to re-engage.
Forward spawns are there, but right now I think Gustagobo in a really bad spot, but Cappy, I'm going to be able to find one before they're immediately taken out there by Grillo. However, you will take that trade every day of the week. Support for support, but look at the bot. All the way moves back up, and Ligtat has another blade.
Yeah, Ligtat trying to find a little something. Gustagobo does go down. Ligtat, though, trying to keep the team going. Almost single-handedly. Blade is gone. No health remaining. Empathy needs some care. Honestly, with the situation, might be able to go push this thing into the forward spawns, and yeah, he's going to be able to do so.
Now we're back to that point right now where the 50-50 Overwatch was honestly really playing into Cosmos' hands here. You just made sure you didn't give up that much of a lead. Yeah, you had to give up a little bit there in that last time, but one fight victory here, Hunter, and you're in the lead. Consider a reality for Mene as they look to try to keep this momentum they built up going.
Yeah, but Captain holds onto theirs, so now you're taking pretty much the other way. No real response. As Volcano's going to go with that beat super quickly. Marcel is going to have theirs online as well. And now everything again thrown into this fight. Everything forced into a corner, being bullied away, but Shinigami is the one to strike first here. Grillo trying to go in all on the action, and with that being the case, you might get rid of Grillo, but the lead inevitably will be taken with a little help from Shinigami as Cosmos, and the time they needed it the most, take over.
Somehow, someway, Empathy stayed alive in there, and they've definitely gotten better as this map has went on. The Zarya, which I was talking about a little bit earlier, being more of a hindrance to this team, is now definitely becoming something that you have to fear right now if you're Garfo. Garfo, though, that time back no longer on your side, and you really have no ultimate to play with. Grillo gonna have theirs ready to go here, but they've yet to find any value with it so far. One kill here could be a difference maker.
Yeah, but he has used all the doubles. Gustagobo sitting on 1 health, and now overtime touch needs to come through, but it barely comes through. But Gustagobo's taken out from the Sundering Blade. Shinigami helping finishing bodies off with a little help from Grillo. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a series on our hands here. Last minute stall from Dystopia. A little more from Gustagobo, but this stall inevitably is going to come to its natural end. Everyone trying to rush back, trying to touch, but it is not going to happen. We're going to tie up the series. Cosmos struggled throughout a lot of that map, but you said it yourself. They find their footing at the very end there, and all that 50-50 Overwatch they were able to win pays off big time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, the 50-50 Overwatch, we talk about a lot, but we normally talk about when one team has a huge lead. When you're talking about 50-50 Overwatch in the situation we were talking about here, it's never necessarily a favorable position for the team that's leading. Because like you said, all you need to do is have one of these teams win 2 fights in a row, and you're no longer in the lead. Yeah, Garfo was able to build up about a 20-meter lead at a point there after a lot of that 50-50 Overwatch, but it was a little bit too expensive. You start to see everyone there for Cosmos really come alive, especially that DPS line, which was struggling a little bit throughout the early parts of that map. I mean, you can go look at the stats. Grillo died 10 times throughout that one. A big struggle at the start, but as it went on, you slowly started to see them find their footing, get a little bit better in the map. Same thing, though, with the Zarya there for Cosmos. I thought they did an excellent job. I thought Empathy, like I said, at a moment I was talking about them being maybe a hindrance to the team and maybe needing to get off the Zarya, but no, they stuck with it. 10 minutes is a very long time, and it took them about 5 to get that Zarya going. But Manhunter, when it got going, it really slowed down Gusugobo for I think the first time that we've seen all week.
Yeah, 100%. And you would love to follow up with that momentum, but it's very smart here from Garfo. They decided to get rid of Zarya here and now. The moment the momentum starts going the other way, and especially going to Saravasa, you need to see what else you have in that hero pool now. But either way, we're going to see what the situation is, as, yeah, Empathy is swapped out, and we're going to have ye old Saxton Hale coming in over on the tank this time. So we'll see what that means. God Hanzo still over on the bench. Gusugobo still in on that Doomfist for the 3rd map in a row. But the other ban we should talk about really quick, Dex, the Venture, which, to be fair, not an inconsequential pick. I mean, it's still a character that can do a lot of damage in that backline, but at the end of the day, it's not a ban that you're ever going to look back on and say, man, we should have saved that Venture ban.
No, especially going to a map like this, I think Venture really excels in these flashpoint maps. A lot of space for Venture to normally just find a lot of value, either with burrowing, coming out of the ground, their normal click, and their ultimate. So the points are wide open, allowing Venture to find a lot of value, and you do see a lot of times, you just see Venture get banned out here. Teams would rather deal with the Tracer, rather deal with the Genji, something that's, I think, a little bit easier on some of these maps here. But now, as we're starting to see the teams load in here, looks like we're going to be seeing Gusugobo stick on. I mean, we didn't expect them to see anything else. Saxton, you almost had me there for a moment. Gonna be playing the Jungle Queen instead. But the biggest difference now is Grillo does not have the bubble from that Zarya. They have to play a little bit safer here. And like I said, Hunter, many times tonight already, you have to kind of play the Vendetta almost like a Doomfist in a way. You need to be able to get in and get out without really putting yourself in a bad situation. Without that Zarya there anymore, it becomes a bigger thing here for Grillo to be able to do that. So far, they've been always pressing the aggression, trying to get as many swings as they possibly can. They now need to worry about their life a little bit more in these situations.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely important. And a lot of this cooldown management is also going to be very important. We saw before how much it's being taken advantage of in the situation, especially from Gusugobo, who is eventually going to get pulled in with that knife. Block not going to do anything when you have both sides coming at you like that. And with that Gusugobo fight going to be surrendered, Cosmos taking first fight. And Saxton Hale on the Jungle Queen, he's going to be a big issue for Garfo.
It's going to be a big issue for Garfo. It's going to be a big issue for Gusugobo. Just because the knife can be able to pull them back in at times where they're trying to get out here, you always have to be wary of that if you're Gusugobo, and that's exactly what happened in that first fight right there. They played up, they used their punch the wall, missed Saxton Hale, and put themselves into a really bad spot here. But you already see Garfo coming back in a little bit split, but that's exactly how you want this competition to play.
110%, that's how you want it to go down, and already trying to bully Saxton Hale into the corner right now. It's working out decently, but still has like double heals sitting by. And if you want to be able to take care of Saxton Hale, you have to go after Mene and Ice Volcano first and foremost, more than likely. Shout comes through, Lines comes through, Shinigami though finds Marcel, and it's going to make the bleeding continue further and further on. Rig Tag, Gusugobo both extremely low. Both going to be taken down with 80% on the board. Retouch ain't going to happen, so this first point inevitably going to go over to Cosmos. This is, for them, a phenomenal start.
Yeah, for a phenomenal start as well, and a phenomenal introduction to Saxton Hale this series here. I mean, coming in on the Jungle Queen, it works well on any of the Flashpoint maps, but I think they did a really good job forcing Gusugobo to really focus in on them rather than the backline. Standing in that corner, normally you look at this as a little bit of a death sentence, but again, you talked about the heals coming out there from both Mene and Ice Volcano made a big difference in being able to keep Saxton Hale alive, and they just have a lot of utility with the shout. But now, you already see Garfo coming back in. They're trying to play a little bit split with Lig Tech kind of playing on their own here, but they need to be a little bit wary here. You do not want to lose your Genji here first, but 3 ultimates, almost 4, ready for the other side.
Yeah, 100%. You see different angles being taken here from Garfo. They want to attack from multiple spots. They want to cause separation. More importantly, they want to cut those supports off and be able to take care of business. And we see that coming through here. Lictat Blade is available, but is forced into a really uncomfortable position. Shinigami gonna be the first one forced out, though. Point flip not gonna come through quite yet, though. Hexen Hail, he does have the investment tool if needed. Point, he's gonna be able to come through, but both being taken care of. This investment will go no further. It's just like a City Rush being used, but now with both of them being out there, you have a 4-4 ult situation coming up here, and I can see both these teams dumping big time.
Oh yeah, I mean each team has a good response for either one. You have the Tidal Blast actually no. I think the Rampage here for Cosmos is gonna be a little bit more valuable here than maybe what you would expect from Gustavo. There's no big cleanse on the other side other than Capium here. But if that Suzu comes out, you've seen it in the past where the teams immediately just pop it. Beat though already out from Ice Volcano.
Yep, good time with Gustavo barely. Gonna get that ult online. Grillo though gets rid of Capium, so this is gonna start forcing things more and more. Gustavo is going to get stunned out on that punch. Now Point gonna flip back over, only 50% on the board here, but it is a big investment from both sides, especially the 3 ultimates used here by Cosmos to pull that out.
I mean, yeah, 2 invested there by Garfo, but you're okay with that. I mean, you can deal with the Blade, you can deal with an overclock. You just have to be able to dodge them around here and put maybe Lake 10 Dystopia in the spots where they really don't want to poke their heads out here. But one thing I've been starting to notice here, Grillo has been just watching Gustavo with these punches. They can stun them out. That's been a big thing so far for them on this map.
Yeah, in fact, it shuts down Lictat. Nearly had, unfortunately, no cigar there, but Grillo gets rid of 2 with the Sundering Blade, and now, even though they've been taken care of, the damage has been done. Marcel doesn't go down. Gustavo might be able to force one more touch, but it would be really rough.
It would be really rough here. Dystopia now getting off of the Soj, going over to Freya instead. Touch coming out there, gonna be able to come out from Gustavo. Lictat is there as well, but no ultimates right now ready for either side. You're looking for the first pick here. You need this DPS line for Garfo to kind of step up. We are highlighting them a lot coming into the series, but this map, they've been quiet. Very, very quiet.
Yeah, but Shinigami getting something going here. Trying to get things going. Lictat dropping on top of things as well, and things falling apart big time. It's going to be 2-0 now with the last test coming through from Dystopia. And now Cosmos looking beautiful, looking great, and that Kitsune Rush from Mene is ready way before Capium.
Hunter, again, going back to this DPS line here right now for Garfo. They only have 5 elims combined. Ice Volcano on the other side has 13. I mean, that's just showing you how much of a struggle right now Garfo is having. They're not finding any kind of value here. Dystopia coming over to the Freya. You want them to be able to find a little bit more here, but Grillo not afraid to get into their face.
Yeah, none whatsoever. Grillo and Shinigami have been stepping up more and more as the series has gone on. And it's coming out big time here on Saravasa. Saxon Hill is also looking beautiful. So you need this Garfo team to step back up, acting like how you were acting those first 2 maps, because this does not look like the way they were performing previously.
No, it really doesn't. And Saxon Hill, I don't know if it's the Jungle Queen that's been a big problem, Grillo figuring out how to play this Vendetta into this competition that we're seeing from Garfo, or we're starting to see Shinigami play like how we've seen Shinigami play in the past, but already Saxon going to be able to find one.
Yeah. We're going to see Marcel, a little bit of investment. Lictat hoping to find a little something, and bodies are falling over. Saxon Hill is going to invest here, though. Kent is on to all 4 bodies right now. Dystopia, Lictat, both gone. Gustavo is going to invest here just to try to stay alive, but it's going to drop a little bit outside of the point, and they have to regroup now.
I mean, that was looking like a fight that Garfo had securely in their hands, but man, that rampage from Saxon Hill turns everything around. Like I said, found 4 and immediately found 2 picks because of it, and that just ended any little bit of momentum that Garfo had in that fight. However, Garfo gonna have 3 ultimates ready to go as this fight goes longer. Your beat though for Ice Volcano should be able to sustain Cosmos through a lot of this here, especially as the Kitsune Rush comes out from Capium.
Yeah, beat is available as well in case there is an investment here, but with Saxon Hill gone, you give up on this fight. You get one on the way out, but Ice Volcano is unlikely to survive. Will go down. And again, you get out of the Kitsune Rush, you can't be mad about that situation. But now, most importantly, Lictat has the Blade, but Ice Volcano has a nice safety net with that beat online.
Lictat has a blade, but the 2 times we've seen blades from Lictat this series, especially the one time this map, it was basically killed out immediately. Yeah. Grillo and Saxon Hail just focused in on them, and they struggle to find anything because of it, so you have to be wary of that. The bullet shot, I think, from Dystopia, you need to focus it on someone like Grillo, someone like Mene, Ice Volcano. Okay, you don't have to focus on Grillo, as they decide to go for a little bit of a swim there, but the bolo is out.
Yeah, Going for a nice little swim. Perhaps getting a little bit of inspiration here as Ligtat is getting something with the blade this time around. Has already gotten rid of one, hoping to get rid of a second. Stun now comes through. Ligtat low, Marcel low as well, and Saxon Hill maybe trying to bring this fight back around, is trying to go on the hunt. It's like a 3v3 situation right now, but the spawns are going to come back quicker.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Garfo in a little bit of a better position with spawns, and everyone is back. Ligtat now going to go over to the Tracer here, but 2 ultimates, about to be 3, almost ready here for Cosmos. Garfo, they don't really have enough here, I think, to sustain very much in this fight, but they need to.
Yeah, Grillo going to get rid of Ligtat of all people here, and Point is just going to flip over. No one can recontest in time. Cosmos takes that 3-0 here on Surabasa. This has been... as short as the series has been so far, it has been a tale of two sides. It feels like Garfo started out so dominantly, but Cosmos have completely flipped the script.
Oh, absolutely, they have, and it's insane to see, because we were talking about how Garfo was playing to start off this week. They're in the middle of a gauntlet, but what did I say? Normally that third game, which is the one that Garfo is at right now, you start to see teams slowly fatigue. I think we're starting to see that right now with Garfo. I mean, again, there was a moment right there in that map where I said, hey, the DPS line, Ligtat and Dystopia, players that have been absolutely insane in the first 2 maps, only had combined 5 kills. Hunter, they ended with combined 12. The only person on the other side for Cosmos that didn't surpass them was Mene.
Yeah, you can't have that happen. You can't have that in an important game like this. I mean, you can't have that in general in a game like that, where you have such competent, such strong DPS players that are just getting shut down consistently. Because we saw before, Grillo was getting shut down consistently, Shinigami was getting shut down consistently, and you were able to see Ligtat and Gusagobo get away with so much, but now it is the complete opposite effect. It has been an entire 180, and now you're wondering what you change around here. If anything, again, God Hanzo has not come into the series so far. It does have a pretty extensive repertoire when it comes to those tanks, but we'll see if anything changes. I imagine after that performance, Saxon Hill might stay in, but to be fair, we don't know what the hero pool is like outside of that Junker Queen.
Well, next map will be Dorado, and we already know that D.Va is going to be banned out here by Garfo. And Hunter, one last thing on this last map. It's really a bad thing when your support line out-elims your DPS line there. Yeah. And that's what happened with Garfo. The support line got 13 kills while their DPS line got 12. I mean, that doesn't normally lead to a lot of victories here. We've seen it in the past where, yeah, it does happen, but it's a lot of times where you're looking at the supports getting maybe 25 elims each sometimes because the maps go long. But that was a great map there for Cosmos. They really started to put together, even with Saxon Hale coming in, we talked about it. How are they going to play? There's no Zarya there. And I think Saxon Hale played that Junker Queen almost perfectly. They put, I think, Gusagobo into a spot where they were always trying to focus on someone else, and that just allowed Grillo and Saxon Hale to play aggressively into that backline. And it was something that Garfo really, really struggled with. And they're going to need to really step it up now as Cosmos, I mean, Hunter, halfway through Runasapi, it looked like Garfo was going to, I think, easily take this series 3-0. Now we're looking at Cosmos here having all the momentum in the world, and Garfo has to figure out something to slow them down.
Yeah, definitely needs to. Quick thing. While we have people getting in lobby, the match room currently says on hold. So for the moment, at the very least, we don't know what that second ban is. We're not going to know until the hold goes away. I'm not sure what has caused it. Shinigami's the only person not in the lobby, so that could be a potential reason right there. Potentially.
Berto's telling us it's a Faceit bug. So that normally means that the lobby will have to be reset. But we have seen it in the past where the teams have had to make the lobby their own. But it looks like it's D.Va and Ana being banned out here.
Yeah, I don't hate the Ana. Ana still pairs together really well with things like Brig and Wooyoung. Has a lot of versatility. It's the same reason why we see characters like Brig be banned out a pretty fair amount. So I'm excited. I think all and above else, this isn't going to affect either team too considerably, all things considered. But above all else, this just needs to be a fight back here from Garfo. We know them to be a very good team. We know their cap is one of the highest here in Faceit Master. They have just not been able to show it since that first outing.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, as we head into this map here, Gusugobo sticking in. You have to imagine Doomfist is going to be the call for them here. If not, maybe another one of the dive tanks. Winston's there. Remember, Diva was banned out, so Saxon Hale will be staying in here. And this is what we talked about. What's their hero pool? What are we going to be expected to see here from them? Right now, they're hovering the Hog, but they did that last map before swapping over to the Queen. And right now, what we're seeing come out here from Garfo, I like it a little bit better. I think Dystopia really excels on Ashe. We started seeing him really struggle these last 2 maps, but even back on Lunasabe, they did pretty good. Ashe, though, seems to be their bread and butter pick. Saxon Hale, though. Ooh, we get to be seeing a Zarya from them here. I mean, yeah, Empathy did struggle a little bit on the Zarya, but I thought they still were able to turn it up there towards the end of Lunasabe, but, well, Saxon Hale potentially coming out with it here. It might just be a little bit more confidence in them, maybe just on this map.
I think this is just to bubble Grillo up as they go for the thing. I think that's it. No, nothing happens right now, so no. Saxon Hale is gonna stay over on the Zarya for now, which I mean, that's really interesting. At the end of the day, I mean, we'll see how it works out. I'm happy to see, but during this first point right here, especially this first corner, sometimes you need a brawl tank like this to be able to go through and push your way through.
And I mean, you already see Saxon Hill actually applying some pressure there to Gusugobo. And Dystopia, I mean, you're seeing Dystopia kind of struggle here early on because everyone for Cosmos is actually playing around corners, making it to where Dystopia just doesn't really find any value. But Grillo pokes their head a little bit too long, and Dystopia makes it pay.
Yeah. I mean, Vendetta's one of those characters that kind of has to be aggressive to find all that follow, all that damage, and that can be very tough when you walk into something like a Brig, like an Ashe, like a Doomfist. This has not been easy for Grillo whatsoever throughout the entire series, but still, they have been getting it done very consistently, especially in that last map. But either way, Sophia's still over on this Ashe, building up very quickly towards that bomb. Saxon Hale is getting pressured so much so to the point where Saxon Hale can't remain in the open, but Lake Tag down, Grillo creates the necessary opening.
And right now, I think if you're Gusugobo, yeah, you're going to be able to find Grillo, but you need to get out of that room, and somehow they're going to be able to as well. But you're going to have to give a little bit of space here to Cosmos. However, you're okay with that. This is a very hard choke to really push through here, no matter what competition is playing, and we've seen Gusugobo absolutely make this living hell for teams in the past.
100%. You're going to have a beat already online, by the way, for Ice Volcano. Which means, I mean, you might not expect this, by the way. You could see a really aggressive one, but with Grillo down, that possibility is surely taken away as everybody else is going to get out alive. More specifically, Saxon Hale is going to get out with a decent amount of charge, at least for now, but they're staying aggressive, trying to get rid of it, unfortunately, unsuccessfully.
I mean, again, I've talked about this competition kind of hinges around how well your Vendetta's doing, if they're alive or not, and it's a really good thing that Dystopia is able to find Grillo out multiple times, but again, you cannot over-aggress yourselves on this Vendetta. Even with the Zarya there to give you bubbles, we've seen it. These teams just are okay popping bubbles to give that Zarya some charge if they can get rid of Grillo, who is the linchpin to this entire competition right now for Cosmos.
Yeah, 100% has been. Now nearly well over half the time has already been taken away. Gusugobo goes for the investment right here. Is going to nail in a decent place, but currently has the entire enemy team staring them down, especially with the considered rush. Bob will be thrown into 7. The bleeding feet going to do the exact same thing here, but Lake Tide now might have an open alley for the Blade. Is going to try to find a little something. Isn't able to get the follow-up, though. Has to try to get out alive. Barely going to be able to do so,
Somehow.
but it's Gusugobo who's taking our first by Mene. Of all people, and this is going to allow the floodgates to open up.
I mean, I gotta give credit to Cosmos here. Making Lake Tad's blades absolutely be worthless here so far throughout this entire series has been huge for them. And Lake Tad, I don't think they're gonna be able to escape this one here. No, Shinigami gonna be able to find them out. What was looking like a very strong hold there for Garfo quickly fell apart as now Cosmos has this first point and is gonna be able to just play up high ground here. You see Gusugobo gonna try to probably land punches and knock him off. It's gonna be very difficult for them to do it time after time again here.
Yeah, 100%. This is going to be a little difficult to deal with, though, because Gusugobo is going to be able to so consistently keep punching people off of this high ground. And if you're trying to make a full-on transition to the staircase, it's going to be so tough. Again, you see right there, Saxon Hale walks up, gets pushed off, and it's going to keep happening over and over and over again. But this is where those opens are going to be important, especially that grab, where you can pretty much solo on the Gusugobo, but here we go. Combination, and there's the combo! I said it was going to happen yesterday. It's finally come true. Lake Tide Dystopia, a little bit more stalled, but that cart's going to keep on pushing forward. Grab and Sundering Blade is a deadly combination.
three-piece combo coming out right there. Perfect timing there for Cosmos as it opens up a lot now for them. No more high ground pressure to be applied here from Garfo, at least for the moment. But you see Marcel has a rally. Capium does have the Consumer Rush here ready to go, but Shinigami are Deadeye ready to go here. You have to imagine it's going to be used as a zoning tool here, but that Consumer Rush out here early on from Garfo.
Yeah. Deadeye not finding anything for Shinigami and Grillo. In fact, not finding any success, but Lictat, the one getting some more success. Going 2 minutes left on the clock here. Mene, last one alive, last one to die as, yeah, 2 minutes left on that clock. Grillo swabs over to the soldier. Wait a second.
And they're sticking with it. Very interesting. You're actually seeing kind of a composition swap here. Saxon Hale now going over to the Junker Queen as well, wanting to get off the Zarya.
Nope.
I think they've kind of understood maybe the situation here. You need a little bit more sustainability. Grillo now back to spawn for the Sim. Ooh. They want to play fast. They want to play a confusing kind of playstyle right now. And Marcel at least calling everyone out there for our Cosmos here for Garfo, but again, it's gonna be very difficult here, I think, for Kusagoba to really stick in that backline. Same thing there for Lake Cat, who you already see very low on health.
Yeah, so this isn't quite the Philly special. So is this the I see. This is gonna be the Cosmos special coming through potentially. They're gonna flip the map around right now, but still, Bob is going to be a very consistent threat here for Zofia. They're not fully really in the fight right now, even though the cart's moving. We're going to get out into the open where that Bob is going to be so nice to utilize right here. Grillo gets obliterated just from looking through the teleporter, and now, with that being the case, this fight comes to a natural end here. Mene is going to die late, and Saxon Hale is going to barely get out of here alive.
I mean, that was worst case scenario there for Cosmos. You invested beat into that fight, and it didn't do anything. You already lost 2 of your members before that fight really even kicked off. Hell, you lost your DPS time before the beat came out. And now the other side, yeah, you got rid of the Bob, but you still have a rally. Goose Gobo is going to be able to build up to their own Meteor Strike here pretty quickly. If you're Cosmos, this is Final Fight territory right here. You're looking at Grillo probably being your touch, but what's going to be your response here? You really have nothing in the Ulticami here, while Marcel and Goose Gobo are going to be able to build up theirs here pretty quickly.
Yeah, 100%. But Marcel is being caught out. Rally has to be used just to stay alive. But big punch takes that still off the high ground. Everyone else has to drop it, engage the fight down here. Now Saxon Hale, the rest of the squad needs to simply take this ground fight. You're going to try to get somebody back over the top, but Gustagobo is going to be able to invest. Rough situation to be in right now. Separation's caused. Good cleanse has to swing through for Gustagobo to be able to not really get any value in there, but that cart slowly inching more and more forward. Low, extremely low, but Lictat, the first one to go down of all people, and now Shinigami is going to have a Deadeye around the corner. It's so necessary here to get some value. Ice Volcano taking care of Gustagobo. Hasn't gone down yet, as a matter of fact, with one health still hanging around. Eventually will fall. Point will cap over in overtime.
And what a fight there by Cosmos to keep this round alive. I thought it was going to be Garfo shutting them down, but no. They were able to dodge out all the ultimates there. Gustagobo and Marcel. I think Marcel, like I said, they used the rally to keep themselves alive. You would probably want to have that one back in that situation. But now you look at Cosmos, a Rampage, ready to go online, and we saw what Saxon Hale was able to do with that last map. Mene's Kitsune Rush, again, that's just a good opener. Capio's going to probably be able to respond with their own, but what does Lake Tat do with this Pulse Bomb? You're looking for someone here, but there's Suzu on the other side to cleanse out almost anything that Pulse Bomb could really throw at you.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that for a lot of the ultimates that are online. Saxon Hale's been pretty good with so far these Rampages, but that cleanse has been utilized really well. Lake Cat is going to go for the Pulse Bomb. Unfortunately, the floor is not a playable character, so nothing comes through for that. But Saxon Hale could have their own opening Rampage still available. Clinton still hasn't been used, but Capium is now down. You would love to invest if possible, but you're going to try to run down into that back line. You managed to get rid of one, but you're in a bit of a rough situation. Shinigami more than happy to make the job a bit easier, though, as Bob hanging around over on the point. Saxon Hale going to tank it as point.
Shinigami.
Yeah, Shinigami's been a beast, by the way.
Shinigami is single-handedly kind of winning this fight here. The Kitsune Rush out here, but is there even going to be a touch? Yeah, you see Lake Tat come back out on the venture, but will it be a difference here?
It might just be right now. Saxon Hale's going to go for the investment. Lake Tat is caught out. The stall tool has been expended, and unfortunately, Gustagobo cannot get another contestant. Who knows how that might have gone down elsewise, but that is going to be the full cap coming through here, and Cosmos, importantly, have their win objective.
And I mean, what a round there for Cosmos. I mean, truly, like we said, there was a really good first point defense held there for Garfo, but all it took, I think, was Gusugoba maybe extending themselves a little bit too far and dying. And then second point, they just got it by the skin of their teeth, and they never really got off the gas in that third point. I think you just saw a little bit of a complete collapse there by Garfo throughout that entire the second half of that map. It just seemed like they didn't understand what they were trying to do anymore. And again, it came down to, I think, the DPS line slowly just starting to struggle. You saw Lake Tat make a couple swabs. Dystopia just didn't find a really anything there. I mean, yeah, Dystopia's 10-1 with almost, I mean, over 11,000 damage, but I mean, you would want a little bit more. I mean, Hunter, if you look at the stats, it really doesn't look like the stats of a team that completed the map.
It doesn't whatsoever. It really doesn't. But there's still some rather consistent numbers out there because no one, like, at least over on their side, doesn't, like, consistently stand out right now. But that's not the biggest issue in the world in a situation like this. Everyone's being consistent around the board. It's not like Dystopia, who is just way up in damage numbers right now. It is everybody doing their part. Nobody's standing out over anybody else. But to be fair, when you full cap a map like Dorado, I wouldn't be complaining much about it.
No, absolutely. I would not be complaining either. It's a very difficult map to complete here, but if you are Garfo, you brought us to this map for a reason. Now it's time to show us that you can complete this map with time in a time bank. And hell, any more time you have added is only going to be a benefit to you here. But yours, you could go trying to disrupt this high ground here. Saxon Hale on the Queen has been going to go throughout the entire series. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Saxon Hale lucky to be alive right now. That punch would have certainly done them in, but hey, Seismic more than happy to take care of business as everyone else going to be able to get out. And they get through this choke very, very quickly.
Very quickly here. But look, Saxon Hale getting off of the Queen, going over to, well, it was the Orisa, now to the Winston instead here. Again, I like this a little bit more here. I think the Orisa would have actually been a little bit more favorable for them. But they want to try to play this playstyle, and Grillo and them and Saxon Hale jumping at the same time could be a very, very scary combo, especially as you already see Grillo in the backline.
Yeah, and Saxon is being bullied immediately, but Grillo is down first and foremost. The opening is 100% here, and 100% it will be taken. Point is going to be capped extremely quickly, by the way. Shinigami is going to die a late death here momentarily, and this is as good of a start as you could get in this situation for Garfo.
Well, like I said, if you're Garfo, you brought us here for a reason. Yeah, you probably didn't want them to complete the map, but you want to show that you can complete this map a little bit faster here. And you already see Garfo trying to take a lot of space on this high ground. They did not want to be held at that first corner by the staircase here. They would rather be held around where the bridge is right now. And Gusugoba already trying to focus in here on Saxon Hale. That should buy some time for Dystopia to get a good angle here on the rest of the team.
Yeah, Saxon Hale close to going down, but Gusugoba is going to have to go and grab the mega health pack to hang alive. Grillo has to recall, but is in a really rough situation. Gusugoba more than happy to finish them off, though, as that cart has been rolling this entire round so far.
I mean, it's been exactly what you want here from Garfo, but you're starting to see some ultimates come online for both sides. Shinigami, their Deadeyes really haven't been used for anything else other than just to try to get a little bit of damage on the Gusugoba, and it has worked sometimes, other times it hasn't. Pulse Bomb, though, will find its target, but not going to be able to clean it up. But however, Gusugoba is there.
That's rough, and now you have plenty of pressure on the backline. Dystopia, though, has just been, again, consistently taking care of business. Grillo, a little bit more stalled, but is in such a rough position. Is going to get a couple of last-minute stalls here, but again, still lucky to be stalling as long as they have, but inevitably, everybody wiped away. Saxon Hale, now over on the Doomfist, has retouch.
Do they really want to go for it, though?
Yeah.
I think the answer is going to be yes, because they want to get ulted up on the other side, but they're already using one here, and I don't think it's going to matter.
I mean, Dystopia's untouchable from the high ground. Everyone's being picked off one at a time, and now you have Cappy, who now has a Kitsune Rush with nothing to reasonably respond to. Saxon Hale has swapped for now the third time this round. They are struggling to find an answer here.
Yeah, just going right back to the Queen, and I don't hate it for this last point, but it puts you at a little bit of an ult disadvantage. However, I think you're okay with it. There's a lot of time in this time bank, though, but Gusugoba has come alive.
Yeah, 100%. Seeing a lot more of that original Helios we were seeing earlier from Gusugoba, but still, gotta finish the job here. You could still get held. This is a rough spot to have to finish the map at, but Shinigami Ice Volcano going to have the beat and that Deadeye ready to go, but there's plenty of tools available here as Dystopia more than happy to let the Bob go. Shinigami hoping to get a little something here, but Saxonel's the first one to go down, pushed out a bit. Gustobo does go down, so with both the tanks out here, you'd figure you're gonna get Saxonel back faster. You should be able to stabilize so long as this pulse bomb doesn't get rid of anybody. Shinigami rolls just in time to prevent the death.
And right now, you still look at here, Garfo is just casually pushing up the card here, and Gustobo should be able to get back pretty quickly, but you lose Dystopia, and right now, if you're Garfo, I think you just want to get out. Don't bleed anymore. You lose your DPS line. It looks like you're going to lose Capium just because they're not going to be able to get out, and this is the worst case scenario here, I think, for Garfo. You wanted to keep this momentum going. You wanted to keep the cart rolling. Now that the cart stopped and going backwards, it's playing right into Cosmos' hands. Yeah, they have no ultimates at the moment, but I think they're now in a spot where they can set up, take their time. It's not going to be Garfo dictating where these fights are going to be taken. It's now going to be up to Cosmos of where these fights are going to be up to.
110%. Saxonel is going to keep trying to maintain this high ground. It's going to be really tough, though, with Gustobo just constantly giving a certain level of aggression here. And Saxonel, who needs all the care in the world, by the way, and Gustobo wanted none of that sauce, by the way. Decided, nah, this ain't my business, but it is my business to go out for Shinigami. Who's gone, and now the investment here from Mene to try to make this happen. Gustobo gets rid of another Grillo taken out of the fight. And now you're going with that all-out aggression. You're trying to get this done right here, right now. And it's looking like it could be accomplished. Mene is barely going to stay alive, but somebody has to retouch.
Someone's going to have to be the retouch here. Who is it? It has to be Saxon at this point. You're going to try to throw Ice Volcano out there, but still, you're seeing a little bit of a contest here, a little bit of a slowdown right now from Garfo.
Yeah, and Saxonel, only ultimate available. Gustobo gets rid of one. You see, most everybody isn't even like playing over on the low ground at all. We have so much pressure on the high ground. Saxonel needs to stay alive, though, is the key to this team taking away this dub right now. You could solo Gustobo, and 100% they do, and now bleeding going to be stopped. 2 minutes left on the clock here. As Dystopia is way in the back line, by the way.
Quick death there. I think if you're Cosmos, you had a little bit of a chance there to stagger. I don't think you're going to see a late touch from an Ashe of all heroes. And now, again, if you're Capium, you're going to be able to get out just barely, but still, Garfo's going to go in 4v5, and they're going to be able to find Grillo out early.
Yeah, you're seeing investment. Marcel, extremely low, is eventually going to die out here. But everything's flipping around right now. Gustobo does go down. So what felt like such a massive time bank, now only a minute and a half away. Cosmos, he's in a potential position to end this here and now.
Yeah, remember, it was about 5 minutes that Garfo had to push this cart to completion here. And it's now about 4 minutes less. And you're coming up here with Cosmos going to have 2, potentially 3 good ultimates here in this fight. Well, yeah, there's going to be 3 ultimates ready as well for Garfo. But you're looking for a spark here for Garfo. It cannot be Gustobo. Yeah, they might be able to find 1 or 2 early picks, but you need Dystopia. You need Ligtat to be able to find one of those out.
Yeah, Grillo wants a little something. Doesn't get anything with the Sun Ring Blade, unfortunately, but everybody low, stacks and hail. And Grillo taking care of more and more here, and things are starting to end potential desperation territory. The ults have been building like crazy going into this next fight, and Gustobo just wants to get out alive.
I love seeing good Doomfist players. They know all the tech. Gustobo is somehow getting out of there. If I tried that, I would just hit the first wall and die. But right now, this is final fight here. You have 3 ultimates ready for both sides, but almost actually all 5 ready to go here for Garfo. But, I mean, if you're completing the map, it's great. However, this would be a huge, huge disappointment, I feel like, with how much time they've given up.
Yeah, Bob in a weird position. Shinigami is trying to make something happen with the Deadeye. Doesn't quite get it, though. And now last fight is here. It's ready to go. Kitsune Rush activated by both sides. Marcel is going to have the rally available up over on the high ground. First and foremost, you've got to deal with this touch. Getting in there. Gustobo gets rid of 2, though. So impactful here when it is needed the most. Saxonel and Shinigami, rough position. Saxonel so close to the rampage. It's not going to come through with 3 bodies over on the point. It's going to be a mad dash to get to the point. Gustobo's down. And that is a critical loss to have here. Retouch is going to be available just in time, but Dystopia, Marcel, going to shut it down. It's a minute and a piece as this series is going to continue on.
Again, like I said, you complete the map if you're Garfo, you keep the series alive, but almost having 5 minutes go into that final point to end it in overtime, you have to feel a little disappointed, especially with how those first 2 points went, where they were really one fight and done. What?
Grillo has died 15 times.
think I'm gonna be honest. I think that's what we're gonna be seeing a lot from Vendetta players.
Yeah.
It's a very boom or bust kind of playstyle you want with Vendetta, especially this early on. But I mean, the fights where I feel like we've seen Grillo, or where we've seen Cosmos really get a lot of value, it's because Grillo's been playing aggressively. Same thing with Shinigami. Shinigami, this has been their best map all series long. Cosmos has progressively getting better throughout this entire series, while Garfo, I don't think they've been getting worse. I think they've just been stagnant. They've been they started off really hot and never necessarily got hotter from then. They've kind of been just stuck. And it's been something that you've seen Cosmos really just figure out here. However, very favorable that you will be seeing Garfo fight or cap the point. Wow. Push second in overtime for them, because after giving up 5 minutes, it's one of those things where you would just assume they would be the first ones attacking.
Yeah, you would think, but either way, it's a minute apiece right now. You need to get as much as possible, and I like this Mei Junkie combination. If you get to a certain point here later in the first, this is going to be so amazing to have. But the important part right now is forcing Gusagobo and Lick Cat out of this position, getting this as far as you possibly can, because these are good tools, Dex, but you still need to be able to utilize these amazing tools, and with Lick Cat down, you take the first step easily.
And I think with Linktat falling there, if you are Garfo, you just need to play back at this first choke point. You can no longer push up as far as you want anymore, but still you need to be able to get Dystopia and Capium out of there. You cannot afford to lose either one of those two here very early on.
Oh, and Capium going down is a worst case scenario. Gusagobo is stunned out of it, is going to try to find a pick, doesn't get it. This first point all but solidified already. You still have some bodies hanging on, but Dystopia is literally in no man's land. And there's nothing you can do about that. Oh my god.
This was just worst case scenario all around for Garfo there. Losing Linktat early on is just not what you wanted to see. And
ooh, that's even worse.
I mean, we let's be fair here. We did see this in our first series of the week on Tuesday, where Dystopia would disconnect about the first 2 maps. A very, very unfortunate time here for them to be disconnecting. But they just did die, so it's not necessarily the worst thing, and it's not like we're in the middle of a team fight either.
Yeah, it's not worst case scenario, but at the end of the day, also Dystopia was probably I don't remember seeing the charge, but I would assume they were one of the ones closest, because I mean Licktat, Capium, I mean Marcel, nowhere close to ultimates right now. I mean, to be fair, it's not even a big deal with the ultimates, but you need to be ready for this fight, because this card has already gone far enough realistically. If it goes any further, it's going to be so difficult to get that far within a minute.
Yeah, and you have to remember, overtime has commenced here, so that it will burn down here pretty fast. That wick will burn here pretty fast here in a moment. And all you might need is just one good punch from Gusagobo, and the round's over.
That is legitimately a different situation. But we'll see if that ends up being the case, as Gusagobo is taken care of. And I mean, this is devastating right now. So Saxon Elf is going to hold the high ground, and someone has to eventually be able to take these bodies off.
Yeah, and right now you're seeing Marcel and just Linktat try to play a little bit of this pressure up here on the high ground. And I'm surprised we're seeing Cosmos allow it here. They could just run up there very quickly. Gusagobo, though, playing the low ground. Like I said, Hunter, at this point, one good punch off the card might be all they need.
Yeah, but they're staying very consistent with staying over on that point. Keeping a constant picture. Linktat is in a really rough position, though. Mene also going to have a considered rush available. Gusagobo is down again. And this is rough. This cut has gone so far, and you're just now getting tools to deal with it.
And the double flashback here coming out from Shinigami is just shutting down Gusagobo here at all stops here. And look, you're about to see Cosmos cap the second point.
Oh!
That blossom coming out from Linktat is going to be the thing that stops this round. But Hunter, did they bleed a little bit too much here? I think they did.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, we'll look at the positive of it. That should have been way worse for them just now. There was a clear ult advantage available there for Cosmos. They could have gone into third point easily with what they had, but they get shut down. But you said it yourself, the bleeding was too much. And now, if you're to do this, you have to be absolutely flawless. And that means coming up with a strategy here that you think is going to work. And unfortunately, with what you have in, this is what you've got. You have players that these are the characters that they are best at, and you have to simply double down and try to make it work.
I mean, you have to remember though, Garfo's first time attacking, they breezed through the first 2 points. The first 2 points were not the problem. But you're only a minute on the clock, like you kind of said. You don't have really that safety of once you get the cart through that first initial choke of saying like, okay, hey, we can fall back, we can regroup. You won't have that time. You have to be playing very fast here. Lake Tech going over to the Genji, I think is a good option here. But again, you're kind of looking at Gusagobo to really be the person here for Garfo to get everything going. And that's the unfortunate thing, because we came into this series talking about, yeah, Gusagobo being a really good tank, but Lake 10 and Dystopia might be one of the scariest DPS lines. However, so far throughout these last couple rounds here, Grillo and Shinigami have really been able to get their number time after time again.
Yeah, 100% have, but again, this has to be flawless here from Garfo to take us to a 5th map, and Lake 10 has already taken care of Grillo. It's a good start right now, but a little bit more than that to make this happen. Everyone's still maintaining the high grounds here for Cosmos, but a deadly double punch comes through. Ice Volcano, Shinigami taking care of it now. Bodies need to jump over on this card as Mene and Saxon Hill. Rough situation. Saxon Hill might not be able to get out of this place alive, but as a matter of fact, will not. That should be first point all but secured right here, but that is half the battle done.
Half the battle done here. It's going to be capped a little bit faster than what we saw from Cosmos, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily matter. Overtime will commence here for Garfo.
Oh my God!
Not afford to lose a fight here, and that's terrible.
You can't go up that far. That is literally worst case scenario. Now, Marcel's down. Someone's got to keep retouching. Lictad's down, and Gusagobo taken down, and it is going to be the downfall here for this Garfo squad. Cosmic's hoping to clear it out, and it looks like with one more touch from Capnium, that might be able to seal it, but they're able to get back. Touches are still coming through, one after another, but with a Deadeye there, I mean, things are sparing, to say the least right now. And Shinigami gets rid of 2, Dystopia gone. Gusagobo is back for one more touch. It's still hanging alive, trying to stay alive, but Marcel is the next one coming over. This is great stall game, but unfortunately, this feels like it's all so temporary. Trying to delay the inevitable. Lake Tad trying to make it back. So close, but no cigar. And a devastating pick early on will secure Cosmos the 3-1 victory.
Again, we talked about how important it was in this series for both these teams just to get a victory here. Both these teams we expect to be playoff teams or teams that are fighting for that final spot here. And Cosmos, they started off slow, sluggish. It seemed like they had to really adapt to that, to the Doomfist competition that we saw here from Garfo. And I'm going to be honest, bringing Saxon Hale in, even though we saw a little bit of a struggle there from Empathy in those first 2 maps, bringing Saxon Hale in, it seemed like to be a difference maker for this Cosmos team. It seemed like there was a little bit more confidence in that tank line, and then you saw that confidence kind of just trickle down to the rest of the team. That DPS line, excellent in our final couple maps of the series here, really shutting down the DPS line for Garfo, which, like I said, we talked about, maybe one of the best DPS lines here when they're firing on all cylinders. However, they weren't firing on all cylinders there in that final map. They were very much struggling in and out. Yeah, we talked about the damage there for Dystopia at a point, but still, you weren't necessarily getting there wasn't the elims to go along with that damage. I think it was basically one elim was about over 1,000 damage for Dystopia after that first round, which is not necessarily the best thing. Cosmos, though, I think that they played a really good series after that first map. They were able to fine-tune Garfo's composition down by each and every individual hero. We saw it get better throughout the second map there of Runasapi, and they never looked back. They took control of the series and never gave it back to Garfo.
Yeah, never did. And we saw how good Garfo was right out the gate back on Ilios, and you're just never able to refine that. You had a lot of it back over on Saravasa, but again, they let that kind of slip away from them, and from there, the momentum, like I said, it never truly stopped for Cosmos. It never went away. But this says a lot about this Cosmos team going forward, because with the way their schedule is going to be going forward, the important thing to know is that they've already got their Dill Paddles game out of the way. They have Fae Overwatch coming up on this Friday, which not an easy game by any means, but after that, with Crazy Legion, Element Heaven, Colhair coming up, the way they have played today, they could take all 3 of those games. And I think they are in a very good position right now to be in that top 4. It is essentially, I think, an issue of them not stumbling over themselves.
Yeah, and that's been something we've seen in South America region in Faceit these past 2 seasons we've been covering it. One of these playoff teams has a little bit of a mess up, a slip up towards the end where they maybe lose a series or two that has come back to haunt them. I mean, last season we can look at Leaders as the example. Firmly in it, lost one, had to forfeit another, and because of that forfeit, they were left out of the playoffs, and Pumas took that final spot. So you don't want to have those late season collapse here. But you talked about Cosmos' schedule here. Garfo, yeah, we talked about them being in the middle of a gauntlet. However, the gauntlet ends, I think, on a much easier note than where it started for them. They play Crazy Legion next, and then you have the fork and knife battle to end it up on Saturday as they take on Faca, which that should be a fun one. Faca actually doing really well so far. Only 2 losses this season. That should actually be a really, really good matchup because it really might decide who is the best team in the Cutlery org, I guess. Because you could really look at the one as a playoff decider, a playoff spot decider between those 2 teams.
I think it 100% is. With everything we've seen so far, it feels like the way things are trending right now, the teams that have less than 3 losses right now, it's pretty much everyone from Garfo and up. That is going to matter so much. Just like when we eventually get to Cosmos Truck Vlog, that is going to matter a lot. For Faye Overwatch, if they are able to simply stay consistent like they have been, they should be able to take that one away, but they still have those really tough games coming up, like Cosmos, like Truck Vlog, that they're going to have to win. Like Faca, they still have. That is a really tough stretch for them right there, but I think win a couple of those, I think they have a really good shot of securing. But we brought this up last time we talked about South America the other day. It is going to be a situation where one of these teams that perform really well is going to be left out in this situation, and as I said at the beginning of today, it's going to be us looking back on some of those key matchups against the other top 4 teams where they just barely aren't able to pull it out, and that ends up being the decider.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, just looking at the rest of the schedule here for Garfo, they only play one team that's currently sitting above them in the standings throughout the rest of their season. They have 6 games, only one of them is against a team that's above them in the standings. So you would have to put Garfo as the favorite going into 5 of those 6 games potentially. So if they're able to win those 5 games, I mean, still a 2-loss team, you would have to feel confident of making the playoffs here. But still, a lot can happen. Upsets happen. There is a lot of chaos in the South American region, as we have seen so much throughout this year.
Yeah, no, it's been nice seeing these teams. Honestly, I'm glad with all the teams we have been able to see come through. I know some have come up from Open and obviously didn't fully expect to be in this situation, but I think some of them are really doing themselves a pretty good job, all things considered. But obviously, we'll see who's going to be able to go into that top 4. It is a lot of new teams, not necessarily a lot of new players, but definitely a lot of new teams from what we've been able to see. But I'm excited to see how things are going. Obviously, we'll be able to take a little bit of a closer look at things when we come back from the winter break, because as far as I'm concerned, unless some crazy thing happens and we decide, yeah, let's do it, that'll probably be the last game for at least until after Christmas. There might be a team there's like one team that's playing on like the 29th. You never know at the end of the day. But let's say at least tentatively for now, Dex, that's probably it for us for the year. But I will say the games that we were able to have these last couple of weeks have been some of the best games of the season. Like, high key, they have been.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see teams get into that 3rd week of play where they're really starting to figure out everything about how they want to play their compositions. They've been able to have the time to VOD, get in the lab, scrim a little bit more here, and they're really starting to gel. We're starting to see teams actually solidify themselves here. It's going to be really fun to see it after this break when there's more time to VOD, there's more time to scrim. However, I think that break might also hurt some teams as well, because when they're not in that competitive mode, you never necessarily know what happens. And you have to remember, roster lock, I think it is the 29th, so we could still be looking at some teams here in South America and some teams in North America that make some changes to their roster.
Yeah, there's a very real possibility that ends up being the case, but obviously it's something we're just going to have to see a little later down the line. But I've been excited about the season. I'm excited to see how it's going to end up here, and I'm more than happy to get to that playoff territory in eventual time. But with that being the case, we want to thank y'all for being here throughout this week, for being here throughout the entire season so far. Obviously, we intend to hopefully take ourselves a little bit of a break, get our bearings back together, enjoy the holiday season, as we hope all of you do as well. But with that being the case, from here over on the stream, myself, Undertane, Dex Atrami, we want to wish you all a happy holidays. Please enjoy yourself, plenty of food, plenty of family, and we'll catch you after the break for some more Face League action. Take care.